Now you are saying that the means of burying will usher in national reconciliation. Between whom and what?
Between the conflicting political forces and in this nation, Your Honor.
But the human rights victims are saying that they cannot be reconciled to that idea. In fact, it will deny that there is an acknowledgement of the fact that they have been victimized. And second, that it is a re-traumatization, the burial, and not their oral testimony here.
Your Honor.
How can you now square that? In other words, you are going to forcibly bring us to the situation where there is a very stringent opposition. Now, these human rights victims can march on the streets all they want, but they will still, the president will still push through with his decision to allow the burial at the libingan.
Your Honor, with all due respect, the victims have already been recognized under the law. In fact, 75,000 of them have filed their claims before the Human Rights Victims Compensation Board. So nothing, there will be no benefit that will be removed from the victims by the burial of Marcos at the libingan. The state recognizes, Your Honor, their sufferings.
All right. Let's go back. Anyway, you talked about their reparation eventual, no?
Yes, Your Honor.
The 10 billion pesos that had been set aside under the Human Rights Claims Act, where does it come from?
The 10 billion pesos, Your Honor?
Yes, that has been set aside.
I understand it comes from the Swiss deposit account of the Marcoses, Your Honor.
And the Swiss deposit account of the Marcoses was turned over to the Philippine government because it is their own private money, or is it government money?
You mean the 10 billion dollars, Your Honor?
Yes.
I believe, Your Honor, that is part of the ill-gotten wealth.
All right. So, in other words, money that had been stolen from the Filipino people itself is going to be paid for to the victims. Where is the reparation on the part of where is the acknowledgement, where is the confession, where is the penalty on the part of the Marcoses? In other words, actually what is happening is that the Filipino taxpayer is paying for the injuries. So the victims, are actually not being paid by Marcos' wealth because it was never his in the first place. They are being paid for by the taxpayer. Is that correct?
Your Honor, the acknowledgement is in the law itself.
No, by the Marcoses. I know. In other words, my children, my grandchildren will be part of those who are going to pay for the reparations to the human rights victims. Not the Marcoses.
Your Honor, we have no control over the Marcoses, whether or not they will apologize or not.
So,
we are defending the policy of the President to allow the interment of former President Marcos at the libingan for reasons that we have already stated, not only in our oral arguments, but in our pleadings, Your Honor.
So the policy is to allow the remains of the President to be buried at the instance of the family because there is this July 5 letter. Is that correct?
I have not seen that July 5 letter,
everybody
Your
has seen that July 5 letter. I'm sure you should have seen that letter also by now. And you can verify and ask the council if in fact there is such a letter or not. So it is at the instance of the family that a letter was written. Now the family has pending before them $900 million of claim by the Ombudsman. And there is an estimated $5 billion to $10 billion that had been stolen by the Marcos family. And the PCGG itself has been doing nothing but running after ill-gotten wealth. And the national debt ballooned from $2 billion to $20 billion, and we are still going to pay for it, estimates say, until 2025. So this is in relation to the question, actually, of Justice Hardeleza. Are our pronouncements so meaningless to you? The pronouncements not only of the constitutions, statutes, judicial pronouncements, even the statements that the Solicitor General itself has already laid down before the various international courts where we litigated the Marcos wealth issues as well as human rights violations in Hawaii. Are they so meaningless that all of them will be set aside so that we can justify under an AFP regulation that is just an administrative issuance by a caretaker of public property? Are they so meaningless that we set them all aside just so that the President can have his wish that he had orally conveyed?